What's up, everybody? Well, it's been a long time coming. I finally got some coilovers for the STI. They weren't in the best shape, so I had to go through and actually get a couple pieces made from a machine shop so I could actually use them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and put some coilovers on the STI. So here we go. We got our new coilovers, and here's an old stock strut and an old stock rear strut. Now these have a 1/2-inch drop. They're on Raceland coilovers or Race Comp Engineering coilovers. They got about a 1/2-inch drop, but you can still see that there's quite a bit of difference between the bulkiness between coilovers and the stock struts. So hopefully this will help us. So here they are, some HKS SP Max 4 Hypermax. So I got actually a steal of a deal on these coilovers, and after working with them for a while, I found out why they were such a steal of a deal. One of the locking rings was actually frozen on, and the threads were all galled up and messed up, and it would not come off. So I had to cut that off and try to figure out how to get parts from Japan shipped over here. It was gonna take me almost a month to get the get the parts for the coilovers here. So I had a buddy get in contact with another buddy, and somehow I got in touch with a machine shop. They made me actually a new coilover locking ring. That's cool. The other part is, for some reason, there was a missing spring alignment coupler. I don't know how else to say it, but it sits in between the two springs and keep them aligned on each other so they don't just bash the housing. That one was missing. So it's weird. There's a lot of questions to be asked about this set, but got them for a steal of a deal anyways, and they're here. But another thing is they're for a 2015 Subaru. Now, they've got a smaller strut overall from the factory, but they're the same bolt pattern, they're the same mounting plates, everything's pretty much the same, except for there's a little bit of difference in the height. I think that the 2015 is 3/4 of an inch lower. The strut, the car isn't, but the strut is a little bit lower in the front, and then it's a little bit lower in the rear. So, being a coilover, it can adjust. You can go ahead and put that back in to the coilover. So hopefully, I've read a lot of stuff online that says that this will work, but we're gonna find out today if it works or not. So HKS actually makes the same exact setup for my version, which this is also a sedan, but the hatch is the same, as well as the 2015, and the part number is off. But all that is all the components are the same, it's just got a different setup, and I'll show you the different setup. So again, this is the 2008 to 2014, and this is the 2015 to 18 setup. And you can see that the coil, the spring length, on both of these, this is the 2011, or mine, the spring length is the same exact spring length as on the 15, but the length of the case, which is this 281, is 10 millimeters higher than this one. So that means it's just got a little bit longer shock body. After going through a lot of this data, they're the same. All the springs are the same. It's just, it's got a little more gap between the two. Now this is all just for the HKS series, or actually this Hypermax SP4s that I've done the research on. But a lot of guys are saying online that if you get a set of the 15 plus, their stock setup is a little firmer and it's a little shorter, so it will drop. You can drop it over to your 08 to 14 and it will actually fit and lower the car a little bit. Don't know exactly how much, I think it's like 1/2 inch, but go ahead, it is from whatever I had doable, and we're gonna find out today. But definitely do your research if you're thinking about doing it. But it might be a decent upgrade for a lot of guys looking to get the stock springs, but go just a little bit lower. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead. We're gonna put my car up on jack stands and I think we're gonna tackle the front first because they're gonna be the easiest with my setup. I've got subs in the back, so I've got a whole nother list of stuff to do to get to the rears, but I think we'll do that second. We'll start on the front because it'll be easy. So we'll go ahead, jack up the front, and go get our tools out. Now you guys are not gonna have this jack point on your car, but I thoroughly suggest that you guys look into getting it because it has saved so much time trying to jack up the front of this car. It's actually just a piece of round stock. I think it's 1.5 inch round bar welded on to the crash bar on the front of the Subaru. And now I've only got a jack point in the center, and it makes life so much easier trying to get this car up and evenly up all at once. So I can just jack up the front off of this little piece and then the back off the rear diff, and it makes it so much easier to get it up in the air. First thing we have to do is we have to remove, there's a 12 millimeter that holds this ABS line on, and then there's another one on the other side that holds the brake on. And that will be the only two that we need to undo. They're 12s, and then these are 3/4 inch bolts, and we'll undo both of these. Here's the two bolts that come out of the bottom of the strut. This top one is egg-centric, so this is what gives you your camber adjustment. And this is your bottom one that's just a regular bolt. Now that those four are off, this whole shock assembly is loose on here and just hanging out. So let's come off of here, and it will come out as soon as we get these top bolts off. And there's 3 more 12 millimeter bolts up here, and then the whole strut will just drop down. Well, we've got all of our bolts put back in. We've got our two 12s put back in their proper spot. Both of our bolts, making sure our egg-centric one that looks funny is on top. And then we've got all 3 bolts up top tightened down. You want to make sure that your camber adjustment bolt is all the way as far leaned back as you can, because now we've got camber adjustment up here. Through these 4 bolts, we can adjust the camber. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this to the back, and you can tell because this black piece will stop moving into the new coilover. You can see that if you go out slowly, that it will start bringing that piece out. And that's the... Now to adjust your camber all the way in, you want to make sure that this black piece right here is pushed in as far as it can go. You can see it will go all the way around and pushes it out, and now if you watch it really closely, it will actually pull that piece back in. And then it will get really loose, and you can feel, sometimes you need to push, but you can feel when it's at its lowest point in there. Push back and then tighten both of these bolts down. You want to have this one kind of tight, but you definitely don't want to tighten this one down yet. Now that we've gone ahead and got the driver's side install, we're gonna move on to the passenger side. Same process, just the other side. So 3 top hat bolts. You got your 2 12 for your brake and your ABS sensor, and then the 2 3/4 for your lower shock housing. That's it. You guys won't have the subs, but we need to get behind these is 2 access ports where we can get to the top bolts. So go ahead and we'll get our seats knocked down, and then I'm gonna pull these subs out to get to this back side, to the plastic that's right there, right behind here. So we'll go ahead and get this stuff out of my way. Now that we've got the subs removed, you can see that this is the center cap, and here's the outer 2 12s for the top of our rear strut. Both sides, we've got our wheels off, and 1 lower control arm mount. Now these are aftermarket lower control arms, so yours might be a little different, but it should just be 1 single bolt that you gotta undo, and then 2 up top. Well, the rears have been proving very, very difficult to do by yourself, so definitely recommend having another person help you. I had to go ahead and change the ride height all the way as low as it would go, and then still have to push down with the hub, or with the brake assembly down, while I pushed the spring in, and then it made it too short, and I just stuck the bolt in, either on the top of the rear lower control arm, or in the hole that it actually goes in to actually get it up, because you can't reach your hands around to hold the spring up and go all the way around the back of the car and tighten a nut on before it actually falls down. So if you can, get some help. If not, definitely use the lower ball joint in the shock, the coilover assembly, and help use the screwdriver, or I use the old bolt to help pry it up. One thing that you can do is you can just lift up on the whole axle assembly on that hub. Lift up, and it will kind of keep, there's some spring tension in there with your sway arm, so it will keep it kind of up, and it will slowly come down sometimes, but definitely easier with 2 people. But I got both of them in, and I'm gonna go ahead and lower the car now. This lower control arm mount is becoming kind of a pain, because I have to get these 2 washers in there, otherwise it just flops around back and forth. So these spacers have to go in there. Well, they're concaved on one side, so it fits around it, a metal piece that's in there. So I'm gonna have to take this lower control arm and drop it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this bolt out, and that should give me enough room to drop this whole A-arm assembly down. Well, the rear coilovers are proving to be more of a challenge than I was hoping for. I actually had to remove the connection to the actual hub and the connection to the sway bar. I left the one to the body of the subframe so it just swing down, but it definitely was a lot harder than what I was expecting. I had to run the bottom of the shock, or bottom of the coilover, the adjustment, all the way up, and then take the lower control arm and remove it completely from the hub assembly. So got that done, got the shock, it got late on me, got the shock back on there. I went ahead and dropped everything, then put the lower, or the bolts back in the coilover with the 2 spacers in the correct spot, put the bolt in there, and then I put the hub assembly back on, and then the lower, or then the sway bar. So definitely a lot harder than I was expecting it to be, but it did manage to actually get it on. Now I had to go ahead and reset my ride height, and that's where the information offline came in handy, because it tells me exactly how far from the coilover, the bottom of the coilover, to the top of that lower mounting bracket, how far it actually is supposed to be. So we've got all of them installed, everything's on there, wheels are back on, settled down. I went and drove it around the block, gave it a couple really hard turns. I found out I have a rub in the front driver's side. So with all of the shocks set to the factory standard, I actually have a bunch of differentiation between all four corners. Not one corner is the same, and that's because I've got different weights at each corner and different things acting on it. So tune in for the next video, and we're gonna go ahead and actually adjust our ride height via the actual height of the vehicle, not just the shock length. It's really close, couple mils off, but it is noticeable, and you can tell that the front passenger is a lot lower than all the other ones. Anyways, hopefully that helps. If you guys are installing coilovers, what kind of coilovers are you installing? You going to HKS? We'll see if these 15s actually work on this 11. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Maybe you're putting BCs. I really thought about putting BCs on the car, but I couldn't bring myself to buy some brand new coilovers for that much money when I found these ones so cheap. Anyways, if you like what we're doing here, please, 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 it helps me out a ton. Please subscribe. Please leave a like if you found this video helpful at all. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of mine. Take it easy, everyone. Peace.